What if the biggest financial power grab in American history didn't happen in secret rooms or smoky board meetings? What if it happened in broad daylight, wrapped in patriotic language, emergency speeches, and soothing radio fireside chats? What if the year 1933, the one they taught you was all about rescue and recovery from the Great Depression, was actually about control and redesign? What if it wasn't just the end of the gold standard, but the quiet birth of a credit empire, controlled by a select class of policymakers and banking architects? Just look around today. Persistent inflation, rising national debt, your savings shrinking in value, unstable job markets, and an exploding cost of living. This didn't begin with the 2008 financial crisis. It didn't start with the COVID stimulus checks. The roots of this go much deeper. It began when gold lost its throne, and policy-engineered money took over. We were told a simple, comforting story: crash, panic. FDR saves the day, banks reopen, America rises from the ashes. Sound familiar? The official version always wraps a crisis in heroism and promises a return to order, but let's look closer at the facts. In March 1933, just 36 hours after taking office, President Franklin D. Roosevelt shut down the entire American banking system using emergency powers. There was no debate in Congress, there were no warnings for the public. A full nationwide banking holiday was declared. Then came two critical moves that reshaped American wealth forever. First, the Emergency Banking Act was rushed through Congress. This gave sweeping, unprecedented control over the financial system to the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department. Second, and even more shockingly, came Executive Order 6102. This order made it illegal for American citizens to own gold. You were forced to surrender your gold coins, bullion, and certificates to the government. In exchange, you were paid the official price of $20.67 per ounce. People complied, believing they were doing their patriotic duty to save the economy. But here's the part of the story that often gets left out. Just a few months later, after collecting the public's gold, the government revalued it to $35 an ounce. That's a nearly 70% increase in its dollar value overnight. Think about that. The people turned in their wealth at one price, and the government immediately repriced it for its own benefit. So, who gained from this? The big banks, financial institutions, central authorities who now held the nation's gold reserves at a much higher valuation. And who lost? Everyday savers, ordinary citizens. Anyone who believed in the simple promise that a dollar was as good as gold. It was a massive transfer of wealth, disguised as a rescue. Does any of this feel familiar? Think about today's economy. Why do we see markets sometimes rally on bad economic news? Why do savers who play by the rules seem to fall further and further behind, while those who own assets see their wealth rocket upward? Why do we always seem to bail out the system from the top down, not the bottom up? It's because the fundamental nature of money changed after 1933. Wealth stopped being rooted in a tangible asset like gold and started being rooted in policymaking and credit creation. This is the moment when money stopped being something you discovered and started being something that was engineered. The Federal Reserve didn't just gain more influence in 1933, it gained discretion. Gold had acted as a natural restraint on how much money could be created. After 1933, the authority of financial experts and policymakers replaced that restraint. Credit, not gold, became the new king. And behind this radical shift, there was one key architect, one name quietly shaping this new power structure from behind the scenes. This is a figure you won't find celebrated in your high school history textbooks, but whose influence is all over the financial archives. The paper trail tells a very different story of how emergency measures became a permanent playbook for managing the economy. This wasn't just a one-time event. It was the blueprint for the financial world we live in today. The cycle of crisis, emergency powers, and policy solutions that benefit the few at the expense of the many started right here. In the next video, we're going to pull back the curtain even further. We'll reveal the exact mechanism that allows this system to continue, and we will name the architect who helped design it. The name will likely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching and for wanting to understand the world on a deeper level. If this history connects with what you're seeing today, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is the financial history they never wanted you to piece together. I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Ever wonder how we got here? How we ended up in a world where a single tweet from a central banker can send markets into a frenzy? A world where wealth seems to appear out of thin air, but the cost of living just keeps climbing. Most people think this is a recent phenomenon, a product of the 2008 crisis or the 2020 pandemic. But what if I told you the blueprint for our current financial system was drawn up nearly a century ago? The story begins not with Ben Bernanke or Jerome Powell, but with a man you've probably never heard of, Mariner Eccles, as the Fed chairman from 1934 to 1948. Eccles was the architect of what we now call modern interventionism. His core belief was revolutionary and, frankly, terrifying. He believed economic stability wasn't a natural state to be found, but something to be manufactured by policymakers. And his primary weapon? the power to create money out of thin air. This wasn't just a theory, it was a radical plan put into action. It all started in 1933, and it happened in 3 deceptive steps. Step 1. Take the gold. In an unprecedented move, the US government ordered citizens to turn in their gold. It was a national centralization of wealth. The Federal Reserve didn't get the physical metal though. It received gold certificates, a crucial distinction. It was the first layer of abstraction, moving from tangible value to a government IOU. Step 2. Revalue the base. The government then single-handedly changed the price of gold from about $20 an ounce to $35 an ounce. Overnight, the US dollar's value collapsed by nearly 70% against gold. This move instantly bloated the government's balance sheet, creating a massive surplus on paper. It was an accounting trick of epic proportions. And this leads to step 3, the most important part: issue credit instead of hard money. With this new artificially inflated balance sheet, the Fed could now go on a shopping spree. It started buying government securities, flooding the banking system with newly created reserves. Banks, in turn, could now lend money based not on their physical deposits, but on policy approval from the Fed. Money was no longer dug from the ground. It was born from a decision, from keystrokes. The result: between 1933 and 1937, the US money base roughly doubled. Sound familiar? It should. Fast forward to 2020. In the span of just 2 years, the M2 money supply shot up by about 40%. The playbook is the same, just with bigger numbers and faster computers. Eccles's promise was stability, but what did we get? This sudden rush of liquidity creates a predictable cycle. First a boom, then asset prices spike. Stocks, real estate, anything that can be bought, skyrockets in value. And as it does, the gap between those who own assets and those who don't widens into a chasm. It's an engine of inequality, disguised as stimulus. A moral hazard baked directly into policy. What Eccles created in 1933 wasn't just a band-aid for the Great Depression. It was a blueprint for a parasitic system where every crisis, every panic, becomes a justification for more control, more intervention, and more money printing. Look at the timeline. It's a repeating pattern. In 1971, the US severed the last link to gold, closing the gold window. The dollar became fully untethered, floating on nothing but trust. The expansion of credit accelerated. Then in 1987, the market crashed, and the Greenspan put was born. The message was clear: the Fed would always be there to rescue markets, creating a safety net for risky behavior. Come 2008, the global financial crisis hit. The solution: a new term entered our vocabulary: quantitative easing, or QE. The Fed's balance sheet, which is a measure of how much money it has printed to buy assets, exploded to $4.5 trillion. And then 2020, the response to the pandemic was unlimited liquidity. The Fed's balance sheet ballooned to over $9 trillion. Do you see the pattern? Every crisis is met with an exponentially larger dose of the same medicine: more intervention, more credit, more engineered markets. This has fundamentally rewired our world. We now live in an economy where markets react to speeches and policy hints, not to a company's actual performance or fundamentals. Real wealth is increasingly generated not through hard work and wages, but through owning assets that are inflated by the Fed's money printer. Debt is no longer a burden to be avoided. It's a financial strategy for corporations and governments alike. And most critically, crises are no longer seen as failures to be learned from, but as opportunities to justify more control. Money itself has ceased to be a store of value. It is now a tool of policy. In this grand bargain, we traded a measure of our economic freedom for a promise of stability. But what we received was an illusion of stability. Because borrowed time always feels like prosperity, right up until the bill comes due. And that bill is paid through inflation, the silent tax that erodes your savings and your purchasing power. So I have to ask you, are we any wiser now? Or are we just walking down the same path our grandparents did? Only this time we're wearing better suits and staring at smartphones. This isn't about spreading fear. This is about financial literacy. It's about understanding the rules of the game you're forced to play. The world is dividing into 2 groups: those who understand how this system works, and those who will pay the price for not knowing. If you're one of the few who sees this pattern, who understands that money isn't just money, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel, because we're going to keep pulling back the curtain. Comment below with the one fact from this video that shocked you the most. And please, share this with one person you know who needs to see it. Stay sharp, stay curious, and always, always follow the money. Thanks for watching.